what would you say is the best strategy for an applicant who is on a wait list? How often do students get off the wait list, especially in top institutions?
So people do get off the wait list, um, but each institution has a sense generally of where people are on the wait list. They will, you know, we don't want to create a wait list of so many people knowing that like 80% of the people on the wait list are not going to get in. Like we know year after year the range of who's going to accept and who's not, right? And so we know how long we need to make the wait list to make sure that we fill all our spots and not go any further than that, right?
Okay.
So that means that everyone on the wait list does like have a genuine chance. And it's also important to recognize that at the kind of top institutions, most people don't decline offers until the very last minute, right? So we don't get a lot of declines. We get acceptances within the first few days. We don't get a lot of declines until like the few days before the application deadline. So if you're on the wait list and you haven't heard until that time, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Okay. Hmm.
If you have a particular compelling story of why you need to know where you are on the wait list. In other words, you're considering an offer from another institution. Um, if you don't hear from us like until like the last day or two, you're not going to be able to accept that offer because you're not going to be able to think through who your advisor
Hmm.
is going to be, things like that. Um, and you can articulate that, right? Often there are ways to figure out not exactly where you are on the wait list. You'll never get that information, right? But you can get a sense, right? And
Hmm.
I often will uh, like when I interview people, I will tell them, please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Like when I interview people, I'm not on the admissions committee, so I'll be like, I'm outside of the process. Like you can consider me kind of a safe person to ask, and I'm not going to feel like you're badgering me. And if there's a like if I can, I mean, someone at Hopkins knows where you are on that wait list, right? And if I have um, that story, in other words, if someone were to come to me to say, "I'm really interested in this other program," I would really strongly consider Hopkins if I have enough time to figure out who my advisor would be and what that structure would look like.
Hmm.
I can go to someone and say, is this person high enough on the wait list for us um, to go through some of that effort or not, right?
Hmm.
And you know, I can't guarantee that they're going to give me an answer, but I can at least ask and inquire, and it doesn't hurt to make that known. But if it's just I'm feeling a little bit nervous and I want to know where I am on the wait list, you won't get that answer. You won't get that answer.
But it's still important to at least reach out to the program to maybe inquire about how things are going, even if you don't have like a specific question, or you don't have an alternate offer from another institution.
Yeah. I mean, like institutions, if they're not interested in you, would not put you on the wait list, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I think of the wait list as being we're really interested in having you be part of our program. It's just that we only have a certain number of slots, and the slots are limited not by interest; they're limited by funding, right? So
Hmm.
it's not that we wouldn't in a perfect world have everyone on the wait list come and be a PhD student with us. It's just that our department doesn't have the money to make that happen. So it's not a suggestion that I mean the people we're not interested in, we're not going to admit, right? So like, and it does, and I think that we therefore are always happy to hear from students who are like on the wait list and really interested. What will generally not happen is that's not going to move you up or down the wait list, right?
Okay.
So we're not going to um, uh, change your position on the wait list just because you were more enthusiastic in reaching out or not. And the reason for this is that the wait list is compiled by a large admissions committee, right?
Okay.
That we can only bring together one time because it like scheduling 30
Yes.
people or
Yes.
whatever is really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not fair, like since we're not going to be able to bring all those people back to like reevaluate the wait list every 2 weeks or so, it wouldn't be fair for a student to be able to kind of nudge themselves up outside of that process when
Mm-hmm.
you know it would be due process for everyone to be considered fairly at the same time. And so it doesn't hurt to express your enthusiasm
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
to do what you can to see what things would look like at that institution, but it's not going to change where you are on the wait list because that wouldn't be fair. Like we try really hard not to make our admissions decisions based just on one person's like experience with a student or something like that. We really
Mm-hmm.
do
Yeah.
want the admissions committee to give everyone a fair shake.
A fair share. Okay. So, but the bottom line is that every institution has an idea about the ranking of their wait list. I- They may not like
Yeah.
explicitly tell you your position, but in essence, they know like who gets in when the first rejection or when the first like decline of offer comes in.
Yeah, so in general, institutions will have, I mean, and I will say at Hopkins, it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's often like if we lose someone in the genetic epi track, this
Mm-hmm.
would be the person that we would slot in for them. If we lose
Okay.
someone in
Mm-hmm.
general epi, this is who we would slot in, etc. So but there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy tends to be established at the same time as people decide who they're admitting, because again, it's usually an admissions committee of people from across the department who make those decisions. It's hard to get all those people into one room, and so when they do get into a room, they make the decisions about not only the admissions but also the wait list, and
The
then
wait
they can
list.
just give that wait list to the departmental administrators who can kind of check off when people decline who to go to.
Great, great, great. How about dealing with rejections? If you're an applicant and say you've applied to 10 schools and you've gotten rejections from all the schools, how do you deal with this situation?
Yeah, well, so what I will say is I have multiple stories of people in our department who were like flatly rejected one year, like sometimes not even getting an interview, and applied the next year and got in, right? And so just because you were turned down one year doesn't mean that you're not going to be competitive the next year. I would say if you have someone who is that you know in a given department, like I'm not going to do this for like a random applicant, but if there's someone that I know, right, I could look at that application and say, my sense is that this is something that, like, this is an application that is broadly competitive or broadly not. And if it's broadly not competitive, is there something that can be done to fix that? In other words, like if you were to go and work for a couple of years or maybe publish a couple of papers, would that move it into the kind of competitive pile
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm,
not,
yeah.
right? But it's, I think again, like what happens is you have this kind of upper tier of applications, 30, 40 applications, right? Um, that in any given year might be competitive, and you just don't know who's going to be on the committee that's selecting, these are the people we're going to interview, these are the people who are not, right? Or you don't know who's going to stand up in that admissions committee meeting and say, this is the person that we really need to take because of X, Y, or Z, and who's not. And so there is an element of randomness to this, both from one institution to the next and from one year to the next. And so if you have an application that is broadly competitive, or could be made competitive with just a couple of tweaks, you should do that and apply the next year. You can apply to the same places, right? But there are also some times where people's expectations probably need to be calibrated too. I mean that you might not be competitive for certain programs, but you would be competitive in others, and to recognize that there are a lot of people out there who are making a big difference in the field of public health or anything else, who got their degrees from schools that people would not say are like necessarily the top institutions, but they're doing great work, and nobody ever asked. I mean, like, you think of anyone who is kind of a leader in the field, nobody's asking, where did you get your PhD from? Right? They're asking, what have you done? Right? And so there is absolutely the ability to get that PhD. I mean, often what you just need is a PhD, right? And so you get that PhD from anywhere, and you can go with that, right? And so it doesn't, like, you don't have to get a PhD from the kind of top tier institutions of the world to make a big difference,
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Last question.